This story was submitted by an anonymous viewer. I work in armed private security in Missoula, Montana. My job consists of driving to different locations around the town and checking the building for transients, as well as if the buildings are secure or not. In this town of mine, there are buildings that have been around from the 1830s. I'm a 26-year-old male, 6'2", and 215 pounds. I'm not a small guy, and can very well hold my own. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, and had very good training. Also, as I stated, I'm armed security, so when I work I have my gun belt on, the same thing your average police would wear. I was working one night and started my normal route, going from building to building to check that the doors were locked, when I got to this one building that has been there since the 1800s. I have had many weird things happen in this building, and it has to be the creepiest building I've ever gone through. For this particular building, we unlock the door to gain entry, and then proceed to walk down the halls, as it is a low-income apartment building, so we ensure that there are no transients sleeping in the halls or shared bathrooms. It is 3 stories tall, and once we get done checking all 3, we have to check the basement. The video you're watching right now is a video of me checking it, just so you have an idea of how creepy it is down there. The basement is very large, and has many rooms and hallways, so many that you could get turned around really easy, and get lost for a few seconds. This is due to it being an old bar/hotel at one point. As I was checking the basement, I had gotten down the stairs and turned to the left to make my way to the largest room, which runs along the length of the basement. Once I stepped through there, I felt a breeze, which was strange, as there was never one the many times I'd checked down there before. I investigated and found that 2 of the doors that led to the staircase in the alley were left unlocked. I made a note of this and locked both of the doors. I then continued my search when I heard footsteps in the old bar room. I made my presence known, and they quickened as I got into the room, but there was no one in sight, so I started going through the room. More noise came from the rear, where I had just closed the door, and I hurried over to find a tall figure just standing in the doorway. I'm pretty sure from the look of their clothes that it was a transient. I asked them what they were doing, and let them know who I was, and that they needed to leave the property. To this they had no answer. As I repeated myself, they started to slowly laugh in a deep tone, and slowly move closer to me. I drew my pepper spray and warned them to step back. They kept coming, and I gave them a final warning. Then he paused for a second, before turning around and sprinting off. I took off after him, but ended up losing him in the darkness, which I failed to mention is pitch black without a flashlight, unless the building owner leaves the light on, which is rare. While I started to look for the man, I called the police for help. I did not want to play games anymore. Plus, I'm alone with a loaded gun, and if he gets it somehow, I'm dead. I started hearing his laugh again, and it was not just in one area, it was all around. It seemed like he was toying with me. He started saying,
"I'm going to get you."
The police showed up a little while later and assisted in looking for the man, but it was like he vanished. We could not find this guy. I have not run into him again, and I hope it stays that way. This story was submitted by Charlie. I'm a 14-year-old male, and this story happened a few years ago. During this time, my dad was in jail due to mortgage trouble, so my mom had to work longer hours. She had hired a nanny who would take care of us, but my God, she was bad. She just took us to her friends' houses and left us there for hours. But that day, she left us at her friend's house overnight, and my older sister and I slept in the living room on the floor. This was a sketchy part of town, and even the younger me knew this. Her house had even been broken into the week prior. At about midnight, the knob of the front door began to turn. After a couple of minutes of someone messing with it, it slowly crept open, revealing an older woman who looked to be about 30. As she entered the house, I closed my eyes thinking it was a nightmare. But like a dumb kid, I opened them again to see a knife, and that she was standing over my sister. Her gaze slowly drifted over to me, and she looked me dead in the eyes with this 1,000,000-mile stare. Then she chuckled softly, and just as quickly as she came in, she left. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. I remember that the next morning we were playing in the front yard, waiting for our nanny to pick us up, when she walked by and looked at me. Chills ran up my spine, and all she did was a simple hush sign with her fingers. This event caused me to not really trust anyone older that I don't know that well, especially around my sister. This story was submitted by Tammy. I'm a 31-year-old woman from California, and this happened to me about 3 years ago, so I was 28 at the time. I was laid off September of 2012 and was unemployed for 10 months, so I was home alone until 4 p.m. each day until my husband got home from work. Well, one morning in March of 2013, I was done cleaning the house at about 9:30 a.m. and decided to read. I grabbed a book and laid on the couch and started reading. After a while, there was a knock at my door. Right now we have a locked screen door because of this incident, but at the time we didn't. I looked through the people to see who it was, and there I saw 3 Hispanic males. 2 of them were facing the door, and a chubby taller one had his back to the door. I thought to myself that maybe they were friends of my husband's, but quickly dismissed that thought, as my husband's friends know that he works, and if they were going to come by, they would have given me a heads up. I decided to call my husband and ask him about it. By this time they had knocked a second time, so come the third knock, it was a kick to the door. I told my husband I had to go because someone was trying to break in, and I'm calling the cops. He immediately said that he would have a friend go over. I ran over to where we usually have our gun, but my husband had moved it, so I went to the shotgun. The shotgun has a lock on it, but I figured I have the cops on the line, and if anyone gets in, I'm hitting them with it. At this time, I'm in my closet and could still hear several kicks. The 911 operator was on the line with me, and after about 10 minutes advised me that the police department was outside my house. I went outside and my husband's friend was there, and my brother was just pulling up. I was okay, and later found out that my neighbor had heard the banging, and upon opening their door to see what was going on, the 3 guys took off. I can't imagine what would have happened if they would have gotten in, and I'm thankful for my neighbors, and still have the same ones today. I now have a pit bull, and I answer the door with him at my side. This story was submitted by Anaria. This isn't a story that happened to me, but actually a story that happened to my dad. My dad was about 10 years old at the time, so this was back in 1968. Back in these days, parents were a lot more lax about their kids' whereabouts, and my dad told me he would wander around his neighborhood until way after dark before he went home. People back then just didn't worry too much about their children's safety, especially since my dad lived in a relatively safe neighborhood. One day during the summertime, my dad was outside playing football in a friend's backyard. It was him and a couple of his other guy friends, when one of the neighborhood kids pops his head over the fence and asked if they wanted to play baseball with him at the neighborhood diamond. Now this kid was about 16 or 17 years old, and according to my dad he had seen him around the neighborhood, but had never spoken to him before. He was extremely wary of the idea at first, for he took this kid as being kind of weird and a loner. But the boys he was playing with knew of him, and the older kid said that he had a brand new bat and glove that my dad and his friends could use if they came to play with him. The other boys wanted to play with this older kid, so my dad gave in and decided to go along with them. They followed this kid over to the diamond, which was only a couple of blocks away. Once there, everyone seemed fine and my dad was having fun. at first. This baseball diamond was on the outskirts of his neighborhood, so behind it there were no houses or anything, just a big open cornfield. At one point my dad was playing in the outfield along with the older kid. They hadn't talked much since they had gotten to the field, but just some small talk here and there. My dad would try and start a conversation with him, but the kid would give him short responses, which only raised his suspicion. His friend was at bat, and he hit a ball so hard it went out of the park and into the field. My dad ran after the ball, and he was gonna hop the fence into the cornfield to go grab it, but the older kid sprinted past him and insisted that he'd go get it, and shot my dad this sinister glare. My dad immediately backed away from the fence and distanced himself from this kid once he came back. My dad didn't play but for a couple more innings because he was a little uncomfortable and just wanted to go home. A couple days later or so, my dad finds out that that strange kid he'd been playing baseball with had been arrested for murdering his younger cousin, who was about my dad's age. He had hidden the body in the cornfield behind the baseball diamond. The scariest part about it was that he committed that murder the same day before coming to play baseball with my dad and his friends. This made my dad realize why the kid was so adamant that he retrieved the balls when they went into the cornfield. He didn't want my dad to stumble upon his cousin's body, and if he had, who knows what that kid would have done to him. After that incident, my dad swore that he never went near that diamond with his friends again. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description for information on how to submit your stories. Now in the first story, fortunately nothing more came from that transient, and I also wanted to say that I really appreciate you sending in the video clip. It made it a little easier for me to picture this entire scenario. It was a pretty wise decision to call the police for backup immediately, because you never know if the guy's armed himself or not either. Fortunately, he just fled the building, and hopefully you don't have to deal too much more with him. But I'm sure you'll have a couple more creepy experiences, especially since you work security at night. Now for the second story. It sounds like you had a pretty crap nanny, and unfortunately your mom was working so much she never found out. Thankfully whoever broke into that person's house didn't bother you or your sister, although that would be a pretty damn creepy image that would be in my mind for a while. I'm happy nothing happened to you, but unfortunately nothing happened to the lady either. Now for the third story. At least you were smart enough to not answer the door immediately. It sounds like these people probably knew that your husband was gone, and only got their plan foiled when your neighbors heard him trying to get into your house. Fortunately you do have weapons in your house, but unfortunately your husband moved them without telling you, which is really not a good idea. There's no point in having weapons if they're locked and hidden. It's a very good thing you didn't have to try to swing at him with a shotgun, because it's not that hard to block something swung at you. Thankfully they never made it inside, as this situation could have got really bad. It's also a great idea that you got a pit bull for home protection. I don't think it's going to let too many people mess with you. Now for the last story. We pretty much already know how everything worked out, so all I can say is that I'm very happy your father didn't go out there and find a body and then put himself in a really hard spot. Thankfully they found that poor kid's body, as well as charged his cousin for the murder. That is some crazy stuff. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.